Hello everybody and welcome to my TED Talk. My name is Cody Snyder. I'm currently 26 years old and I was born and raised around Kitchener-Waterloo area. Growing up, we have the farm that's about 100 acres. We had chickens, pigs, cattle. We even raised rabbits. We had a goat at one point for some reason. So it was really manual labor kind of upbringing, get your hands dirty type of thing. In a small community where everyone knows everybody. In a sense that if something broke or something went the wrong way, you had a guy for every single thing. You need your chainsaw fixed, you go see Danny. You need some drywalling, you go see Kyle Koenig. You go one of the vets. You need a vet for one of the animals are sick. You go to Calvin, and it just keeps going on. You have one person for every specific thing. And for me, growing up in that, I bought into it hardcore. Right out of high school, I became an automotive service technician, mechanic essentially, and right in the automotive apprenticeship. My one friend, now he went through a tough time right after high school, broke up with his girlfriend, still was kind of searching for that career. So what he did was he went off. He went out and traveled. Spent all summer, he went down to Australia for a couple months. Did a big top deck tour all through Europe and just kind of free spirited. And he was one of my best friends, so I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna get in on this. I'm gonna just dive in, see what the world has to offer. So in 2012, we went traveling. I met him over in London, England. This is the first time I flew by myself. And from there, we went from England to Germany. Went to Netherlands, Amsterdam, and the Republic of Ireland. Went over to Dublin, and it was cool. It was like this guy who has just been in this kind of bubble, and never seen the world. Just literally just plunged out, and I was fending for myself, going and buying stuff, trying to say thank you in Dutch and German and stuff. And it was really a different sense. I was definitely out of my comfort zone, and there's a whole sense of this is you now. You're put in the big world, and to be honest. I really like that, seeing that, these 3 weeks aren't just maple syrup's production, and this little bit isn't just the grain harvest. This isn't the hay season. These people had their own lives and their own priorities, and those things weren't even a factor in their lives because of where they were. They never even heard of maple syrup kind of thing. So they just had that little aspect that attracted me to it. Now, I still had my issues. I was over there and. Facial hair, I'm a really kind of robust guy, so I needed a shaver. So I brought it along, but the travel adapters, thought it was all good. And I plug it into the wall, turn the switch on, and all of a sudden, bang, every single light bulb explodes. Lights all go out, women scream, and I'm just looking around like, well, that was me. Look around, see if no one sees me. I throw it in the garbage, and I run back to the room, never tell a soul. I just missed a little piece in that travel adapter that actually did the adapting. I just did the straight, and it just didn't like it. So obviously I had issues kind of adapting. But the thing is when you're traveling in hostels in the way that we did, you meet so many different people. And I really enjoyed learning like all these people and how they had their specific attributes and who they were, what their life story was, what kind of family do you come from, what are you interested in, what have you done. And what I quickly found out was these people were just as interested in my small bubble and hay season, maple syrup production, how do you sort the cattle, and what is a square bale of hay, how much does it weigh, how many do you do in a year, and it just, looking back, it just really floored me that people actually cared about what I thought was just like so boring. Everyone knows, that everybody, you go see Danny to get your chainsaw fixed. No one knows who Danny is. Half the people haven't even touched a chainsaw in their lives. So it was just that weird different aspect. So from there, I hatched a plan. I was just decided, this bubble is always going to be there. No one ever moves out of this bubble. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go and experience what it's like to not know what maple syrup season is, or not have to sling bales every hot summer day. So I decided with my friend that I met over there that we were going to move over to London, England for a year, and that year we would go find jobs, live the life, go to the pub on the Saturday nights, go traveling, take a train over to Paris, that kind of stuff. Just live it for a year, just to get that under our belt, and do it now while we don't have responsibilities, no kids, no mortgages, anything like that. For me, I was going to go over there, get a mechanic job. learn the imports and what everyone gets so frustrated over here. Well, it can't be that frustrating over there. They know, like, you know that they built it, so they know it. So I'm going to learn what they know and move and learn on that, bring it back and really teach people and travel. That was my main thing. I really want to meet more people and get more stories, see how they all did it. So we were over there for a little bit, and it only took me about 2 months, and on the visa I had, I was allowed over there for 2 years. Bam. No questions, I'm there for 2 years. I was loving it, every single aspect of it. I found that, living on a farm where any store, the closest gas station's a 8-kilometer drive. To go anywhere, you have to drive 15-20 minutes. Well, there, I could walk. It sounds really, really funny because in Canada you can walk too, but I've been so rural that I could walk to the store, I could walk to work, I could get a train to pretty much anywhere in England. They're really set up, so I love that. Stuff like groceries, English hot mustard. You put like a tiny bit on your sandwich, and bam, it's just so huge, kills your nostrils. So everything like that, like even on payday, like they get paid on the month, 1 day a month. Everyone gets paid, so they all just go to the pub and spend their money. I really enjoyed that kind of stuff. So what I did was I changed, my mental state changed. I broke out of this closed bubble thinking, and the more people I met, the more opportunities that presented itself that I never would have gotten in this bubble. One of the first jobs I got offered, aside from my mechanics, was actually to be a guide at Oktoberfest in Munich. And this is me coming from this bubble, not knowing a lick of German besides like Dankeschön and Prost. I learned that they wanted me. I have something that, that interest, that compatibility to talk to pretty much anyone in the world and be interested. They liked that. Spontaneous trips, you'd meet travelers and they'd say, hey, we're going up. I went up to Edinburgh for New Year's in Scotland, and they just said, come on up, join us. And I did, and it was one of the best experiences ever I've had. And you just grow this sort of global family. And I'll touch on later how this really touches on your state of mind and outlook on life, and something that you should really strive towards. But that's kind of the quick and things I started gaining kind of rapidly once I got in the travel mode. And really, it gives you more perspective. It gives you the knowledge of how other cultures kind of run and how they function. Like in Australia, it's perfectly acceptable and encouraged for young people after they're done either high school or university or any big transition in their life within that to go on a gap year. And now what they call gap year is you go travel for a year. You take the amount of money and you just send it and live it, because they really value this knowledge that personally I've gained and the experiences I've got, the well-rounded thinking that you attribute, like you gain through this. And they encourage it because they know the benefit. And if it's part of their culture, they go for it. Whereas when I left here, in my personal culture here in Kitchener-Waterloo, it was frowned upon. Like you're leaving everyone behind. It's almost like you're disowning your family to go and do these things. And it's just such a different way of thinking, and because they know it and it's accepted, it's allowed. Extended holidays. In England, you get 5 weeks of holidays a year. And now that's 5 business days in 5 different weeks is 25 days off, plus your 8 statutory days. So essentially you get over a month off a year, and it makes work less stressed. Just stuff like that. The morals you get, like walking in crowds when I was traveling with a group of a bunch of English people in China, they would push through, whereas me being a Canadian, you just kind of take your time. But no, and to be honest, I should have been more assertive because we got there, whereas if I would have kind of stayed and not pushed through people, it would have taken me half an hour to get through crowds. So it's stuff like that you just learn. So once in a while, I would start telling my story, what got me, out and in front of people, and they'd be like, "Oh, so what's it like back home in this little bubble?" And I tell them we have Mennonites. Blows people away. They've never heard of a Mennonite before in their lives. The fact that they, still heat their house with wood, and they use candles for lights and zero electricity, off the grid, horse and buggy. It floored them. They didn't believe me. They'd have to Google it half the time. And quickly what the trend started being was I was an extremely Canadian person. I started looking into it a little bit, and they do have merit. I pretty much have all the stereotypes, except I didn't skate and play hockey as a kid. I'm a lumberjack, you know, in the farm we cut down trees, we split it for firewood, make maple syrup. I love wearing plaid. I always have a beard. I love the cold. Snow is like my favorite season of the year, and just stuff like that. Absolutely loved it. And it kind of kept reoccurring that these people would get to this point where they would say, oh wow, you are really Canadian, and apparently I have a really strong accent, which is another weird thing to get on. And yeah, they kind of kept coming back as me taking pride and in this being really Canadian, you know, very nice and polite, that kind of stuff. And it started reoccurring where I would tell people how maple syrup was made. Some of them even thought it was a conspiracy, like it didn't exist. They're all just putting sugar in syrup and putting this random flavor, like how banana flavoring doesn't actually taste like bananas. And they thought it was all just a conspiracy. And essentially, I'd have to sit them down and I'd say, oh, do you want the short story or the long story? And, you know, once in a while these guys would ask for the long story. And when they're in that, they would get so interested that it would turn into an hour-long conversation. And it's crazy. And essentially, that's where I took it from here. I also found out during my travels that I look back, I'm actually an 8th generation Canadian, which is pretty cool to say. We've always made maple syrup through our family. And coming back after this experience is when I started kind of shaping how I would use this different thinking through this bubble and apply it to keep my life interesting. I looked at our family business and I'm like, oh, you know, I took so much pride in telling people of our maple products that, you know, let's do something different. Let's put my spin on it. You know, let's break out of this bubble and let's go for it. And I found out really quickly that international shipping is really just meant for the big boys with the big companies and the big wallets. So I'm sitting there like, what can I do? What can I do? You know, I don't want to fall into that same bubble-minded thinking. I gotta keep evolving. And I was watching a show called Shark Tank one night, and this guy came up, and 18-year-old taking over the family business of maple syrup products. And I was like, cool. And they had all kinds of different products compared to us, where we just had our maple syrup. They had butter, they had sugar, they had maple candies, and they had maple cotton candy, and bam, light bulb went on. Maple cotton candy, that's kind of fun to do, and like no one really does it around here. And in his little container, about that big, I think 32 ounces, 170 calories. All natural, gluten-free, no natural, like it's great, and maple has natural healing properties and great vitamins and minerals, and it's all natural. Like literally, you take the sap out of the tree and you boil it. Like what more like natural product can you get? So that's where my genius hour came in. I wanted to make this cotton candy, and the problem that I quickly thought of was production cost. You know, I'm not those big players. Packaging it, labeling it, doing all that stuff, you know, it's going to be hard. So my question essentially was like, what would be required? Like, how do you go about doing this? So researched all this stuff. What would be required? I rounded up some cheaper equipment, like a kitty little cotton candy machine maker, started cooking, and I found out quickly, trial error, you know, this whole research and development process that all these people go through. That was me in the kitchen. And to be honest, it's hard. I've done so many batches now. I've made a ton of sugar, and I've even made like little clusters and taffy and pretty much everything. But I can't get the process from the sugar into the cotton candy. And you know what? It'll be more to come, but it's fun trying to do it, and I really enjoy doing it. But what I have to remember here to inspire and push on to the people that are watching is take a step back from this maple story. Where did this passion come from?